Welcome to TradersArmy.com, defending your right to build wealth and preserve capital for generations to come. What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a great long holiday weekend. Welcome to today's edition of the Daily Market Commentary. I'm your host, Chuck Fulkerson. We're going to do what we do each and every day, looking at 10 to 12 futures markets from a breakout and reversal perspective, identifying potential opportunities. What you'll see today is that we are sitting at a new all-time high, and so not a whole lot is coming, although we talked a little bit about the potential for a pullback in the area where we're kind of hanging out at the moment. So let's go ahead and dive in. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get the alerts and the updates. If you're not new, do me a favor. Click in the box that says that little like, that little thumbs up. Takes you just a second, but it means a lot for the channel and for the algorithms. Please help me to grow the channel. It is a very important thing. Helps a lot. All right, let's go. S&P up 6 this morning. We're getting a bit of a pullback into a region that could act as a potential reversal. Now, I had identified this last night in our live trade room where we've got a little wick over wick area here. Price, unfortunately, didn't come back to there before putting my head on the pillow. But that level, I think, is still pretty valid heading into today. We'll see if something happens there. I did actually, it's a very, very small little wick over wick level on a 15-minute chart. It may not hold. And if it doesn't, that's fine. But I do think that there is a potential for a breakdown below 3140. If we get some basing in here, I think that seems to be a ripe area for a bit of a breakdown. So keep an eye on this area for a bit of a breakdown later today. Now, we're not going to be just willy-nilly going short. It's still got to follow all the rules. But the reason that we're looking at that as a potential is just the fact that the S&P is sitting at a fib extension level, combined with the fact that the Russell is sitting in daily supply. The Russell had a really strong week last week, but really it had a really strong week, but really had a really strong Monday. But we are sitting in a little daily supply here on the Russell. So we're at a fib extension point in the S&P. The Russell is sitting at daily supply. Combine that with the fact that the Nasdaq is a bit overextended, and some of the stocks the big ones that make up the Nasdaq may be a little bit cooked. You could have a breakdown here in the Nasdaq below this area. This would be our demand area where we could theoretically see a breakdown occur. Now, I will say this. If I'm going to take the breakdown, the Nasdaq is not the stock to do it in. You're better off doing it in the S&P or the Russell, not the Nasdaq when we look at those indices. And then I got a couple of demand levels here, which are nowhere new. These are some of the same levels we had last week. We really haven't seen many new quality levels created since then. Obviously, a breakout above this 84.58 could serve as a new move to an all-time high. So just look at that as well. Next, crude oil. So crude oil we sold off really hard on Friday. Strong move down Friday on Russia's surprise news with the OPEC. And we've come back to about a 50% retracement of that area. And last night we talked about a potential for a candle-to-candle trade somewhere up in this region. So if you wanted to do that, then you should be short at this point with your stop above this candle's high. With your first little target right about 56. So a nice little move coming out of that zone from the overnight session. If you didn't get into it, no big deal. They've got a supply level up in here. We could also get a little rally off of this zone down there. And then gold, I really had nothing to talk about. You're going to hear a pretty common theme here for the next little bit. In gold, we had this little bit of a pattern, and then we popped above it, but unable to really stay above it. And that actually hit our supply level. And now gold is really just still in a sideways price action. Very difficult to trade something that's this much sideways in a price action, so we're waiting on price to move one way or the other. But you're going to see that constantly repeated here in our currency markets. In our 10-year note, the ZN, we looked at this one as a potential for a reversal. We switched it last night from a limit entry to a confirmation entry, and the reason being is that we'd had a pretty big downward price action move and decided, it's probably better to look at this as a confirmation than a limit. And then in the overnight hours, we popped below it and are now getting a rally up. So I need to remove this level at this point, which is why we switched it to a confirmation entry. And now we have this area up in here where we could see a price return to for a little reversal. Got a little wick over wick area here just above, but we actually may reverse at this one here. So look at that for candle to candle. In the Aussie, we're in between our levels of demand and supply in a fairly sideways price market. We've got all these upper wicks here formed at a pretty decent time of day. I like it when I see a bunch of these upper wicks. Those tend to sell to set me up for pretty good supply levels going forward. In the euro, so the euro, we're sitting right at a little bit of daily demand in the euro, but that daily demand, we've hit it once, we moved away. We've hit it again, and it's getting a bit weaker. We could see this turn into a little bit of a flip zone. But we also have a potential for a breakout above this area. So if that daily demand gets us a push up through here, then I think we could see price move a bit higher. Last night, as we were looking at this market, we had noticed that it was a little bit of a pennant pattern, and we're continuing the move down. So if you wanted to just really get short below here, I think you could get a little run to the downside below here. I think there's room at least for price to make it down to this region here where we're that little wick over wick. But these are all, if you notice, very small day trade opportunities because the markets are so sideways. Pretty common to have sideways price action markets coming right after a holiday week. So we'll see what happens going into this week. Canadian dollar as well, nothing really to lean on in that one either. Moving over to the pound and the Japanese yen. So in looking at the pound last night, we had talked about a potential for a gap and go trade, and our gap and go trade is if price gets below the first candle's low, we can get short with our stop above the first candle's high. Well, just because we pop above it, it's okay. We actually just broke below it a little bit earlier, got a decent little move away. We've now rallied back up to kind of the origin of that move. If you want to give that a go, looking at the 15-minute chart, if you see a little bit of a reversal, I think there's room for price to continue to fall on this particular candlestick. And then the Japanese yen, we've got a little gap fill area here up above that price is returning to. It seems like none of my supply orders have been able to get filled here on this pretty strong move down. So we'll see if we come into this gap fill area on the Japanese yen. But overall, if you look at our currency markets and gold, you don't see a whole lot of price action, a lot of sideways price movement. And so let's see this week if we get a little bit of a pullback in the markets, the S&P, the Nasdaq, the Russell, all of them giving this the indication that there's a potential for a bit of a pullback. However, until it happens, I can't really do anything about it. And while we were in here, our 15-minute level just popped right through as this one just came right through the area, and we got a little bit of a pop right through the level. Let's see if we get a bit of a bounce off of it. But that level, like I said, was a fairly weak level, 15-minute Globex session identified in the overnights. And we're getting a fairly strong sell-off right now overall. So let's see if we get some basing in front of this area here for a potential downside movement. So those are some of the areas that we're looking at for today. If you got any questions, please send us an email, support@tradersarmy.com. Hope everybody has a phenomenal Monday. I will talk to you soon. Later.